Oh, my dear man, Ivan Vasilievich, how are you?
Thank you, and how are you?
Oh, so, my friend. Please sit down. It isn't right to forget one's neighbor. But tell me, what is this? Dress clothes? White gloves? Are you on the way to some engagement, my good fellow?
No, I have no engagement. Except with you, Stepan Stepanovich.
But why in evening clothes? This isn't New Year's.
You see, it's simply this. Stepan Stepanovich, I have come to you to trouble you with a request. It is not the first time I have had the honor to turn to you for assistance, and I'm a bit nervous. Perhaps after a drink of water, Stepan Stepanovich.
He's come to borrow money. I won't give him any. What is it then, dear Lamov?
You see, dear Stepanovich, I mean Stepan Dearovich, I'm terribly nervous, as you will be so good as to see.
Don't beat around the bush, my dear fellow. Tell me.
Immediately. In a moment. Here it is, then. I've come to ask for the hand of your daughter, Natalia Stepanova.
Angel! Ivan Vasilievich! Say that once again, I didn't quite hear it.
I have the honor to beg for you.
My dear man! I'm so happy that everything is so everything! I've wanted this to happen for so long. It has been my dearest wish. I've always loved you, my good man, as my own son. May God give you his grace and his blessings, and I've always wanted this to happen. Why am I standing here like a blockhead? I'm completely dumbfounded. My whole being. Oh, call Natalia.
But Stepan Stepanovich, might I hope for Natalia Stepanova's acceptance?
Really? A fine boy like you, and you think she won't accept you on the minute. Love sick as a cat and all that.
Cold. My whole body's trembling, like I was going for my examination. But the chief matter is to settle things. It's cold. Natalia Stepanova is an excellent housekeeper, not at all bad looking, well educated. What more can one ask for? I'm so excited my ears are roaring. And not to marry, that won't do. In the first place, I'm 35, a critical age. In the second place, one must live a well-regulated life. I have a weak heart, continual palpitation, and my lips, they begin to tremble. And then there's a throbbing in my temples. But the worst of all is sleep. I can barely lie down and begin to doze before something in my left side begins to pull and tug, and there's a hammering in my head. And I jump up like a madman, and I walk about a little. But as soon as I lie down again, there's a terrible cramp in my side, and so it is all night long.
Ah, it is you. Good afternoon, Ivan Vasilievich.
Good afternoon, Natalia Stepanova.
You must pardon me for wearing my apron and this old dress. We were working today. Why haven't you come to see us oftener? It's been so long since you've been here. Sit down. Won't you have something to eat?
No, thank you. I've just had lunch.
Smoke? Do. Where are the matches? It was quite beautiful today, and only yesterday it rained so hard the workmen couldn't do a stroke of work. How many bricks have you cut? Think of it. I was so anxious, I had the whole field mowed. Now I'm sorry I did, because I'm afraid the hay will rot. But what is this? You're in evening clothes. The latest cut. Are you on your way to a ball? And you seem to be looking better, too. Really? Why are you dressed up so gorgeously?
You see, my dear Natalia Stepanova, it's simply this. I have come to ask you to listen to me. And indeed, it will be a surprise to you, and you will be angry at me, but how fearfully cold it is.
What is it? Well?
I'll try to be brief. Ever since my childhood, I have had the honor to know you, Natalia Stepanova, and your family. My poor aunt and her husband, from whom you know I inherited the estate, were always on the friendliest, indeed the closest terms with your father and your poor mother. The Lamottes and the Chewbacca's have always been close. And as you know, my property, enjoyed your own. If you will be so kind as to remember my meadows, which are much yours.
Pardon the interruption. You said my meadows, but are they yours?
Yes, they belong to me.
What nonsense. The meadows belong to us, not to you.
No, they belong to me, my dear Natalia Stepanova.
Well, that's certainly news to me. How do they belong to you?
How? I am speaking of the meadows that lie between your birchwoods and my brick earth.
Yes, exactly. They belong to us, not to you.
No, you are mistaken, my dear Natalia Stepanova. They belong to me.
Try to remember exactly, Ivan Vasilyevich. Was it so long ago you inherited them?
Long ago, as far back as I can remember, they have always belonged to us.
But that's not the truth. You'll pardon my saying so.
It is all a matter of record, my dear Natalia Stepanova. It is true that at one time the title to the meadows was disputed, but now everyone knows that they belong to me. That ends the discussion. Be so kind as to listen. My aunt's grandmother gave use of the meadows into the hands of your father's grandfather's peasants while they baked my grandmother bricks. My grandmother gave them the land free of all costs. They lived on the land for about 40 years, living there as they would on their own land. Later, however...
There's not a word of truth in that. My grandfather and my great-grandfather too knew that their estate reached back to the swamp so that the meadows belonged to us. What further discussion can there be? It's really quite annoying.
I'll show you the papers.
No. Either you're joking or trying to lead me into discussion. That's not at all nice. As far as I'm concerned, the meadows aren't worth very much. They don't contain more than 5 acres, and they're worth only a few hundred rubles. Say, 300. But it's the injustice of the thing that affects me. Say what you will, but I can't bear injustice.
Only listen until I have finished, please. The peasants of your respected father's grandfather, as I have already had the honor to tell you, baked bricks for my grandmother. My aunt's grandmother wished to do them a favor.
Grandfather, grandmother, aunt, I know nothing about them. All I know is that the meadows belong to us, and that ends the matter.
No, they belong to me.
And if you keep on explaining it for 2 days and put on 5 suits of evening clothes, the meadows will still be ours. Ours, ours! I don't want to take what belongs to you, but I refuse to give up what belongs to us.
I don't need the meadows. I'm only concerned about the principle. If you are agreeable, I beg of you, accept the meadows as a gift from me.
But I can give them to you because they belong to me. This is very peculiar, Ivan Vasilyevich. Until now, we've considered you as a good neighbor and a good friend. It was only last year we lent you our threshing machine so that we couldn't thresh until November. And now you treat us like thieves. You offer me my own land. Good neighbors don't treat each other that way. It's a very low trick, to speak frankly.
According to you, I'm a usurper then, am I? My dear lady, I've never appropriated other people's property, and I will permit no one to accuse me of such a thing. The meadows are mine!
That's not true. They're mine.
Mine!
I'll prove it to you. This afternoon, I'll send my reapers into the meadows.
What?
My reapers will be there today.
And I'll chase them off.
If you dare.
The meadows are mine! Mine!
Oh, really? You needn't scream so. If you want to scream and store in rage, you may do it at home. But here, please keep yourself within the limits of common decency.
My dear lady, if it weren't that I were suffering from palpitations of the heart and a terrible throbbing in the arteries of my temple, I would handle things with you very differently. The meadows belong to me!
What is going on here? What is he yelling about?
Papa, tell this gentleman to whom the meadows belong. To us or to him?
My dear man, the meadows belong to us.
But merciful heavens! Stepan Stepanovich, I thought at least you might be reasonable. My aunt's grandmother gave the use of the land to your grandfather's peasants, free of all cost. The peasants lived there for about 40 years as they went on their own land.
Permit me, my dear man. You forget that your grandmother's peasants never paid. It was because there had been a lawsuit over the meadows. And everyone knows that the meadows belong to us. You haven't looked at the map.
I'll prove to you that they belong to me.
Don't try to prove it.
I will!
My good man, what are you shrieking about? You can't prove anything by yelling. You know, I don't ask for anything that belongs to you, nor do I intend to give up anything of my own.